another exciting episode of Starfleet Action So Hail in Any Universe, where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. Today we're talking about Star Trek Discovery Season 5, Episode 5, Mirrors. And I'm so pleased to be joined by Marcelo and Joel, two wonderful Trekkies that love to talk about Star Trek. And I love to talk about Star Trek with y'all. So here we are. How are you guys?
Good. Doing
I'm
good.
good.
Excellent. I see the audience is coming in here. Salon Trek here to cause some trouble. Cake is eternal. Boiled cake is eternal. Yippee! What is Mirror Sohail like? We've contemplated
good
this
question.
before. I think he'd be a real kind of like angry.
I think he'd be
like,
straight.
serious guy. What's that?
No, wait. He'd be
I
the
think he'd be
opposite of
straight.
casual and formal, right? So
Yeah,
he'd be
this would be
strict
very.
and very formal. He's got a tuxedo.
Yeah.
He's gonna yell at you for doing stuff wrong.
Yes, and also I think he would be straight.
Well, yeah, probably. I mean, I don't know.
Probably.
I don't know if like being straight is evil.
I mean,
It could be, but not necessarily.
It could be.
I guess
could
it
be.
means opposite. It just means opposites, right? Mirror is opposite,
Right.
not necessarily evil, even though.
Or
the
wait,
term-
wouldn't it be better if he just says he's straight? He's just really closeted. and
Oh,
happy and
he's
eviler?
creepy. Yeah, he's
I'm
he's creepy
straight.
cringe.
That could work. That could work as well.
Ooh, Cake is Eternal says I'd be Sean Connery.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. We are having a formal and strict conversation. That doesn't really sound like Sean Connery,
Yes,
but
money
alas.
Pam. Yeah.
That fits into the Indiana Jones-ness of this season too. So.
It does indeed. Junior. Wow, that was the we all immediately went on a tangent. A little bit of housekeeping before we begin. Normally these streams for Discovery are at 11 a.m. on Fridays, but next week it will also be pre-recorded, sadly, because I have more appointments with the Betazoid Intelligence Agency that I have to tend to. Yeah, the BS. So I have to take care of that. So next week we'll have a pre-recorded episode, but then we'll be back live the following week. Tomorrow, later on today at 5 p.m. we are going to be live. I'll be talking about Star Trek Lower Decks episode with Negus Rom, which I'm very excited to talk about with Trek on the Tube. So tune in for that. And then don't forget at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're gonna have a lot of fun going over to the Text Trek chats and seeing what Father's gonna do with his deep dive of this episode. Today we don't have any slideshow presentation, so you guys will just have to try to remember the scenes. And I am going to try to pull up this while we get through our conversation. I'm going to try to pull up the little graphic that tells you what it says on the dedication plaque on the ISS Enterprise. But Joel, as a tradition on Starfleet So Hail, the newest member gets the choice. If they want to, you can do the episode summary. If not, I'll take care of it. Or Marcelo, if you'd like to do the episode summary. Any of y'all feel inspired?
Oh,
Joe
I
can
didn't think
take
about
it.
that at all.
What's that? You didn't think about? It's
I
something
did
that
not
you
think
should
about
just do
summarizing.
yeah, it's okay. It's just something you do from the gut. I mean, like when I do them, they tend to take long, but I think I could do this one really short. If you
Okay, I
want.
think this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
How about you, Marcelo? You're good. You want me to do it?
Yeah, you can do it. I'm good.
All right, cool. So the Discovery is continuing its search for this clue after last week when they couldn't find when they couldn't figure out where Maul and Locke had gone, and they went into that time loop. They finally got out of that time loop, and then they discovered that the reason the warp signature kind of disappears is because there's a wormhole that is outside of the visual spectrum. And so they're able to see it once they change their sensors and their view screens to look at it. And there's an oscillating orifice or entry to this wormhole. And the reason it's oscillating, I thought, was pretty cool. It's because the burn caused it to destabilize. And so it used to be, I guess a certain aperture, and then now it's doing this like funky thing where it's going, bouncing or puckering, as as some folks like to say, but whatever you want to call it, it's doing it. It's oscillating. Let's just call it oscillating. Anyways, they figure out that Maul and Locke actually went into there, and they figure out that it's some kind of pocket space, like a pocket, interdimensional pocket, and so. So Michael decides she's going to go in with Book because of Book's kind of connection to Maul, and she leaves Rainer. She tells Rainer to take the con, and and he kind of like is nervous about it. He wants to go on the mission. He wants her to like stay behind. It's kind of, he thinks it's serious. We shouldn't risk the captain, all that good stuff that first officer is supposed to do. But when she finally kind of assuages all of his points, she's like, "What's really going on here, Rainer?" And we find out that maybe he's like a little bit nervous to take the con because he hasn't obtained the confidence of the crew yet, or he doesn't think that he can. But Burnham says, "I believe in you," and she's on her way with Book. They get into the wormhole, and they find that Maul and Locke's cool courier ship has been destroyed, but inside is the ISS Enterprise from the Mirror Universe. What a surprise! What a coup! Anyway, so they decide to board the Enterprise. Book and Burnham are kind of like, looking around. Burnham has a moment, powering it up and stuff, and Burnham has a moment where she laments because she realizes that the science station is where her brother would have been stationed. And I like that scene where he asks her, well, did you ever encounter the mirror version of him? And she's like, no, he was probably ruthless though. Like the rest of them. Of course, we, the audience, know what Mirror Spock was like, so we have a different idea of what his fate was, which we'll get more into when we talk about that part of the story. But basically, we find out through a plaque that a bunch of Mirror Universe folks were helped by Action Saru to escape the Mirror Universe. There's people who are actively trying to get out of the Mirror Universe and come to this universe. We've heard there's a better place out there. So they did that. And so, Burnham and Book kind of lament or ponder, what if, I hope they made it to like a safe life, and so on and so forth. And so of course we'll find out later that they do make it on the other side. And I don't think they suffered from the same effects that Georgiou suffered from, because they were closer to their time of exit, so they got to live normal lives, which is pretty interesting, and has a lot of insane implications about who might have been on that ship's roster and who came over from the Mirror Universe. So I'm excited about talking about that a little bit more. But anyways, then they discover that Maul and Locke are hiding out and on the ship, and they go over there, and Maul and Locke have concocted a kind of like holographic, a bunch of holographic versions of themselves to throw them off. But Book and Burnham go straight for the holo emitter, knock it out, and then we're in a kind of a standoff. And in the intensity of these standoff, Book's trying to convince them, hey, you got choices, come on, like, stand down, come with us, like, this is, there's nothing that you can't undo, like, don't get caught up with the money and all this stuff. And then Maul's like in a rage, she's like, can it erase what are they called, Erigas? Can it erase an Eriga? And that's when Burnham kind of realizes that he's a Breen. So Locke is a Breen. Locke has always been a Breen this whole time, right in front of our faces, and we didn't know it. Now we know what the Breen look like, sort of. They look like two things, which is kind of interesting. But so we get this crazy reveal. So first time in Star Trek that we ever see the Breen unmasked, although as many are pointing out, Kira may have already known what they look like. Anyway, so this leads to an interesting situation. So Maul kind of reasons that, okay, we've got the artifact, you need it, so let's do this. You're gonna take us back aboard, you're gonna replicate it, and you're gonna set us free. And Burnham's like, nah, I've got the real clue here. Scan it if you want. Blah blah blah. And of course, she's bluffing. But in the meantime, they need to figure out a way to get off safely. So Book and Maul decide to go up to the bridge together. Maul reluctantly, and that leaves Burnham and Locke behind, just kind of, pointing phasers at each other, hoping, everything's resolved to a good end or whatever for each of them. And in that moment, Locke kind of contemplates, well, if we do turn ourselves in, could I serve time with Maul, because I'd rather not be without her. And then we start getting, in all this time, we start getting these flashbacks of Maul and Locke's relationship, which is more, it's definitely still a Bonnie and Clyde, but there's also a lot of Romeo and Juliet vibes going on. I feel like, star-crossed lovers, that kind of thing. It was pretty interesting. We get a little bit more information about who Locke is. Apparently he's like a prince, and is part of this really prominent family of the, what is it called? Do you guys remember? The Primarch's nephew. And we see kind of how they got into this
sixth form or something.
Sixth form, yeah. And so then we see how they get into this Araga situation, because they got caught, basically, and also the Breen frown down on anyone who stays in the solid version of their form, which is what Locke has been doing, so that he can so he can interact with Maul better. And his pleas to his uncle go unheard, and so he's forced to kind of incapacitate them. And then Maul convinces him to escape with her, and they're on the run since then, which I find very interesting, because it's interesting. This episode's called Mirrors, and Locke is kind of a mirror for Burnham. In his own society, he is similarly a mutineer, if you will. And and so he's on the run, so that's kind of interesting that they paired them up. And of course, the reflection of Maul and Book is pretty obvious, with Cleveland Booker being involved in the whole career lifestyle, and basically not looking for a new home, new family, all that good stuff. Anyways, on the Discovery, they're trying really hard to figure out a way to boost communication so they can stay in touch with Book and Burnham. But but when Maul and Book are unsuccessful on the other side, and the shuttle's destroyed, and then also Book and Locke, they get into a little kerfuffle as well. And even though Burnham is successful in getting the artifact, Locke, unfortunately, I guess, stabs himself on accident.
Falls on it,
and yeah, or something, somehow he gets injured and probably mortally wounded. But anyways, the ISS Enterprise is out of control, and it's heading towards the aperture. The aperture is too small, and on the other end, they don't know what's going on. But Burnham and Book manage to get to the bridge, while Maul tends to Locke, and in a beautiful scene where it kind of transitions from a flashback to the present, and he's like, he says something like, you mean everything to me. I love you. I love you. And it was like a cool transition that they did there. Anyways, but going back to the main action, Burnham, the ISS Enterprise is pretty damaged and old, hella old too. And so they're able to get the tractor beam to work. And so, knowing Raynor's, having studied Raynor's culture, Burnham's able to send an encoded message through the tractor beam that Raynor's able to recognize. And then he realizes, oh crap, they're coming through this thing like in a starship, so we got to increase the size of the aperture right away. And he uses his interesting leadership skills to motivate the crew to give some solutions, and they come up with an awesome solution of firing photon torpedoes in a hexagonal pattern to keep the aperture open using antimatter, and it all makes sense because they explained really beautifully what's going on with this wormhole in the beginning, and they were able to open it up, and right through comes this gorgeous Enterprise, that silhouette, and then yeah, I know. Everyone loves those Connie lines. They're excited, and Oh my god, that's funny. Mirror Sohail will do episode summaries in 20 words or less. Yes, that's correct. Anyways, the ISS Enterprise comes through. Locke and Maul have a couple of tricks up their sleeves, and I think they take the same escape pod that like got Captain Kirk, or the same pod that got Captain Kirk in trouble for jettisoning or something. I don't know. I got to figure all
They
that
said
out.
medical in there. It was some. So
Oh,
would it be
maybe there's a
close to sick
medical.
bay?
Yeah,
It's
maybe,
why it
yeah,
has
it's
warp
true.
though. I
Hey.
the mirror universe doesn't
What?
seem like we have to make people safe. If so,
Well,
maybe
the
it's
Terrans
just for the
would. I think
captain or
the
something.
yeah. Well, yeah, it's got to be. That's
'Cause they have sneaky
100%.
things.
That's 100% what it is. Anyways, they sneak off. They're able to escape, but we have the clue, and so that's something that's yet we have to decipher the next clue and figure out where to go next. Rayner and Burnham have a great kind of moment, where she praises him for what he's done, and he's like, well, the captain's place is on the that's the captain's chair. I don't want to sit in it for too long. Book's bummed out, and the crew performed marvelously. Am I leaving anything else out?
Culber and Tilly.
Oh my gosh, yes. And Culber, who's going through a kind of a crisis, connects with Tilly, and Linus playing piano is darling as well. I gotta say, it's true. And so Culber's kind of still feeling some kind of change, or he's feeling some kind of discomfort from his experience with Janal. Maybe not discomfort, but something. He's feeling something. He's feeling off, and so Tilly's helping him through that. And I think now I got everything right.
Yes.
All right, 17 minutes, not so bad. Or 15. I think I did it in 15.
There you go.
Since I did the episode summary, I'll just go first to say that this is another banger episy of Star Trek Discovery. Season 5 is so freaking good. I'm really just loving every episode. I like how this chase, if you will, is playing out, and it is really the template is that episode, The Chase. Like, they are kind of doing the same thing but in a new way, which is really cool. Loving all the character development. Adore Rayner, adore all the kind of drama that's going on, between Book and Maul and Locke and stuff like that. I think it's very interesting and compelling. Not a lot of critiques that I can think of right now, but yeah, let's get into it. What did you guys think of it? Marcelo, why don't you go first, and Joel, you can finish us off.
Yeah, I just a quick word on the season. I really like this season. I particularly like what they've done with Book and how Book has been with all his marvels this season, because it's on record that last season I wanted to strangle the writers who came up with Book storyline. But I do in a nice way. I'm not a murderous people. Thank you, Joel. But I do like to move to Father Ree's point of view. I do like the propulsive beat to the storytelling in this episode. It doesn't seem like we are staying in quicksand as we move from clue to clue. It seems that we're just moving through it here, nice and smooth, and there's no filler episodes for lack of a better word, for me personally. I love Rayner. I love her. I love his relationship with Michael Burnham, and I love the villains of this season, or the big bads in Maul and Locke. I think they're really, really interesting villains, and I don't think they're one note. I think they have multiple layers to them. Although this episode really shot my theory to shit, so I'm gonna have to do some headcanon to think what is possibly going on here. But I'm really enjoying this final season of Discovery for sure.
All right, and Joel?
Yeah, I really liked this episode and this season. Yeah, I think they did seem to have really fixed their sort of strange problems they had with some of the, like, 2 through 4, with some of the overarching story arcs would bog down in the middle. Maybe it's because we know what they're looking for. It's not a mystery till episode 9. I'm not sure if that's the reason, but it seems to be going better. And yeah, in this episode, I did like, yeah, we got to see a lot of stuff with we got to see Rayner doing stuff, being, extremely deferential and not even sitting in the chair. And I did like that he told Michael not to go. because that's what he should do.
Yeah, very, yes,
Captain
very record
really
moment.
shouldn't be going over into a wormhole. Maybe you
It's
should
an
send a
extra
probe
dimensional
first,
pocket.
but they don't like
Oh,
probes anymore.
I think that also, like, I think they were like, I think that's true. They could have sent a probe over, but yeah, maybe Burnham
I
just
bet
really thought,
it would probably lose communication right away, so the writers are like, that's just a waste of time. But
well, also I think in this situation they probably had enough information from the scans that they were like, well, Maul and Locke went in there, we should go in cautiously.
Yeah, but
and
also,
stuff like
but
that.
also, you guys have to remember who's captain of the ship. It's Michael
I know.
Burnham, and Michael
He
Burnham
likes-
jumped first without any questions. So Michael is not going to send a probe in there. She's going to go any chance she gets.
she
And
wouldn't
nobody's
have.
Just
gonna get
like-
in her way.
Yeah.
Just like all of our lead captains, I mean, it's just the thing that Star Trek kind of espouses.
Well, Riker
of
would have
that.
gone up Picard, but
But I do want
That depends, Joel. It depends
depends.
on
tried.
on TV Picard or movie Picard, because
Well,
movie
TV
No,
Picard.
I do want to say that TV Picard would have had like 6 meetings about this whole situation with his senior staff before doing
Oh.
anything, and by the time that they got to meeting 5, Michael would have figured out this whole thing by herself. But that's just Michael.
Anyways, captain's prerogative. They want to go. I'm the
Yeah.
same. I wouldn't. Ultimately, like, I think the rule of like protecting your captain is all great and everything, but like when you have a really strong first officer, like
Right.
as a captain, you're like, why not? Like, I know my first officer's got the ship handled, so I'm gonna
Right,
go
right.
and check this thing out.
Yeah.
Cake is saying, the real Paul Stamets is great teacher and educator about mycology. That's true. Paul Stamets is pretty awesome. I liked Stamets in this episode. He was pretty cool. Burnham was always fun on away missions and can't quite quit them. And also Burnham doing a Kirk thing. Yeah, she reminds me so much of kind of her style of captaincy is very interestingly similar to Captain Kirk, but also probably the character is probably more inspired with someone she worked with more closely, which is Captain Pike. And we both know that Kirk is also kind of like a student of Pike in a way, or will, at least admires him a lot. They don't work as much together as Burnham did with Pike, but it's all the same. It's all the Robert April branch of captains, if you will. And maybe you could take it as far back as Archer, I guess, if you really had to. There's like a lineage of kind of these captains and stuff like that.
Yeah, Michael is just the type of captain that jumps in first. I wouldn't necessarily compare. I mean, if you want to compare to Kirk or Archer, you can do that. But Michael is a person that jumps in first with both feet and doesn't stop until she gets what she wants. And that's just the way she is. And that's the way she is, even before she was captain. Yeah.
And she's very analytical and scientific. I love that she's kind of she's a very interesting I love her as a captain. I just love
Yes.
Captain Burnham. But what did you guys think of the episode opening with Book's log, and what do you think about Book and his whole kind of interest in Maul and like the reason behind it and everything like that?
I thought it was very
I
interesting
like
that
it.
he had a log.
No, go ahead, Joel.
Go ahead, Joel. Sorry.
Being, he's not an officer or in Starfleet at all, but so does like everyone have a log? Does Grudge have a log? I mean, that would be really cool. Michael
think you
tried to
can-
play with the mouse with me again. She doesn't understand. I don't know.
I've always assumed that anyone who wants, it's like journaling, but in
Yeah.
the future you just do it into your computer. Like you just talk to your computer. I wonder if you could do that I wonder if I can set up my technology to just do that, like where I can kind of read a log every night and it would transcribe it. I'm sure you
Probably.
could do that. That's kind of a thing.
Apple is rolling out an app called Journal where you can do that.
Or you'll just be able to talk to it and say like a little message every night
Yeah.
or something like that. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. I guess when you're
I
on a
don't know if
ship,
you
and
will.
he's also been I think the reason why it makes sense that Book is keeping a log too is because he's been a captain. So I wonder if he kept a log on his ship, which I think was called the Nautilus, but I'm not sure if that's correct or not.
They don't talk about it much, if it is. I heard that, but I don't remember. where it was on screen, but
yeah, so what about him and Maul?
Well-
like I said, Joe, go ahead.
no, you go ahead. I don't even know where.
All right. I really like what they've given Booker to do this season, and giving Booker the idea of helping out Maul understand where she came from and getting her to the side of good, possibly, and stopping her from chasing this MacGuffin for money reasons or for reasons that we don't know yet is a really good idea. I just like Book storyline because his head is on straight this time around. And he's open with Michael and he's open about his intentions and he's not being led around by someone who is distrustful because that guy really ticked me off last season. So the primary reason why I like the storyline of Book this season is because it's like the writers took everything that I hate about the way they handled Book story last season and said, you know what? We're gonna give Book something really, really important to do, and we're not gonna make him an imbecile or a guy that's or a guy that's clouded by his emotions like he was last season.
Yeah.
I like that he really kind of sees himself, again, going back to the reflecting thing, like he sees Maul as a reflection of himself and where he was perhaps like a year ago or whatever, when he was hitched up with Tarka and kind of, as you say, thinking in, with his emotions more than reason and things like that. And I think he really believes that in that connection between him and Maul because of his mentor, Booker Cleveland. And it's so interesting when they finally meet up. Like I was kind of, I mean, Maul's been kind of, made it clear that she thinks her father was like a totally awful person because he left her and her mother. And then to make matters worse, her mother died when she was 14. So Maul's had a really rough kind of life and she blames her father, and not unrightfully so, because she didn't know why her father left, or she doesn't understand why her father left. And then we have this contrast of Book who's like, well, he says like he may have been a shit dad to you, but he meant the world to me. Like he was a really great mentor. So it's interesting that this character, and also he does make it clear that at least from what he heard from the original Booker Cleveland, that he left his wife and daughter to protect them, to keep them away from this kind of like violent life. Ironically, Maul ends up in the life that he was trying to avoid. So one can debate the merits of his decision, which could have been, which is worse. Would you rather be in this like crappy life and have both your parents and at least have that kind of stability there, or perhaps the chance at a better life, but then her father never followed up or kept tabs or anything like that. So it's an interesting conundrum. But Book claims, well, whatever you thought of your dad, he meant the world to me, and he kind of like raised me in a certain way where now I feel this like really strong connection to you. And it does seem to kind of move Maul a little bit. Like she doesn't just like dust him as she said she would have, like she does kind of trust him. And I think that like, it's interesting. I forget where did I see this? I think it was in Jessie Gender's video. She referenced this clip of Kira. Yeah, that's where it was. In Jessie Gender's video about Ira Stephen Bear. Agree or disagree, I think everyone should go check it out. It's a very interesting video. But in that video, she talks, there's a scene where Kira is talking about her mother who was sipping Kanar on a beach somewhere with Gul Dukat while people were suffering, and kind of abandoned Kira and stuff like that. And so Kira says, but at the end of the day, I still loved her. She's my mother, you know what I mean? And that's kind of like, kind of the vibe I got here was that like, even though she's bitter, there's this connection that she can have to her father, maybe fill in some questions or gaps through Book. And maybe that intrigues her a little bit because Book represents someone who knew a different version of her father, maybe a better version of her father that she wishes she had.
And it's also, I think, interesting because there's a whole thing about choice. Like Book keeps coming up with, Maul, you have a choice. You don't have to do this. But Maul, the original Booker, Maul's dad, didn't really give his family a choice. He just ghosted one day. So he made that choice.
Well, he made a choice. Yeah, he made a choice for them.
Yeah,
and yeah, so she doesn't vibe with the whole choice thing. You're right.
Yes. So I just thought of that one now, but and it's also interesting that she's very mad at her dad. But go ahead.
No, go ahead, Joel. I've been
finish your thought, Joel, and then Marcel.
She's very, she's angry at her dad for that, and then her mom having to become a miner, which seems like that killed her. Rubidium or whatever it was. But she's also still trying to get to the colony that her dad told her about. That still seems to be the ultimate goal.
The Big Rock Candy Mountain, as you called it, which I
don't know what else to call it, because it's just like it's fantasy land. It's probably not real, or
who's the singer, the famous singer of that song?
He
also sings Lavender. No, he sings Lavender Blue. Also, Dilly Dilly, Lavender Blue.
I think a lot. It's a folk song, so everyone covers.
Yeah, it's true. But I guess I heard a version. What's his name?
It's old. It's from
the. Let's see. Burl Ives is what I'm thinking of. He does a good version of the Big Rock. Yeah. He does a really good version of the Big Rock Candy Mountain. I love that song. But I want to talk a little bit about Locke and the Breen. What was your reaction to that? Were you guys surprised? Did you predict it? I think Joel, you were on the Breen.
They were Breen, but then the other. I mean, we had seen Locke change in that one episode, but of course, out of context, you're like, I don't know what's going on. And so that was very surprising and very, very interesting. The two forms of the Breen, and then yes, it seems to be out of breath, and it's very hard for him to always be solid, which he wants to be around Maul and not be in the suit, because I think they have to wear the suit if they want to stay in their liquid form for more than a very short time. So it's very interesting. Yeah, his love for her he'll suffer to be in an easier way to interact with her.
What about you, Marcel? What do you think of the big Breen reveal?
I was really disappointed because, like I said at the start of this conversation, I thought he was sick. I was like, "Oh, he's Breen," so that's just really weird. But well, weird is a relative word. But I also started to think, like, if Maul and Locke really love each other as much as they pretended to, or as much we think, or as much as we think they do, why hasn't Maul been okay with getting one of Odo's buckets and telling Maul, listen, I love you, but I gotta get out of this form, and I'm gonna just take my bucket and go in a room over there and just rest for a little bit. But I'm gonna be back, and when I be back, I'll be in human form, and we can keep doing what we're doing. So I
don't think Marcel, I don't think they work like the founders do. I don't think that it's quite
bad.
Yeah, I don't think it's quite the same. I think I think that there is definitely some kind of effort involved in maintaining a more solid form, because they've kind of evolved into a more fluid form, but they're not like the founders. They're not like, they can't shapeshift. They only seem to be transitioning between those two forms, like the way that he looks when he's solid, and then the way that they look when they're kind of fluid or whatever
but he can't switch it off like Odo could.
Yeah, the suit probably has some kind of property that energizes them or keeps them from in some way supports that fluid state or whatever, or allows them to be in that fluid state, but it's not necessarily the same as the founders where they need to recharge in a bucket or anything like that. I don't believe, from what I've seen.
Not on screen, at least.
Yeah.
So hold up. Maybe they're going to find this MacGuffin to find to find a cure of sorts, so Locke could stay in
Oh.
human form without.
There's
any
none
pain.
of that. I don't think that's like I don't think that's at all what the purpose of it is. To me, I don't know if you get this, but to me, the reason they want the progenitor tech is so that they can get rid of the
Bounty.
blood bounty. That's the only reason they want
That's
it.
the
They
only
don't
reason they want it.
and Maul even, I mean, sorry, Locke even says like, I don't really care what it is as long as it can lift the Eriga. So they're not looking at it. I don't think there's anything that needs to be cured. I don't think they even know what the progenitor tech actually does. But they just know that if they bring that to the Bream, that they have a second chance.
But yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Right.
Sorry.
That could come up later, though, as they slowly learn more about it. He could start thinking about that.
Well, we do see in this episode that.
Could.
Well, yeah, possibly, but like, I don't think there's any issue with Locke. Like, it's a cultural taboo to be in that form, but I don't think there's like a problem being in that form. You know, physically.
Yeah.
He's tired, but it could have to do with other things more than. I don't think it's not the same as Odo, where he's just melting. Yeah. Cake is eternal. Cake is eternal in the audience. Says when Locke first removes his helmet, it looks like it's painful for him to achieve his green face. Maybe it's difficult, maybe, but not. I don't know. I'm not getting the vibe that it's like an issue per se. But maybe you guys are right. We'll find out as we find out more.
There is also seemingly a mystery with Maul. Because, Maul wants money to go to this colony, and then she does fall in love with Locke. But it looks like she sought him out there on that Breen station. Because she seemed to know that he was royalty, that he'd heard that he's demoted to be space trucker supervisor or whatever. But
that's it. She could be using him. I like that, Joel.
I think she did fall.
I don't know why you guys are so suspicious. Yeah, I don't know if why you guys. Maybe initially there was something, but she seemed to be flirty from the start. I don't know. Based on those flashbacks, I didn't get the impression that she was like.
They're all a bunch of helmeted people.
Hey, you know
what? To flirt with.
You know what? Everyone's got their
man in uniform.
Everyone's got their preferences and their kinks and stuff like that. You know, I don't want to knock Maul's preferences and her kinks, but I think that like there's something to be said because like, you know, I'll just share something personal to kind of relate to her. Like, I really like those like folks that wear the leather masks, you know, that are, you know, it's like kind of a fun thing, and I think it's kind of cute. Whatever, I don't know. So maybe she's got, you know what I'm talking about, like the doggy masks and like the cat masks and like the, yeah, never mind. Anyway, maybe that's too much information. But
I got it.
But I could kind of see her digging that mask thing. I got some good lords in the audience.
There you go. Juice is going.
Art says selfish, unredeemable characters. I don't like them. Unredeemable, and I think they are going to try to redeem them. I don't know that they're trying. I agree with Arthur. They're very hard to. The murder thing is hard either way you cut it. Even though, as our friend Father on Text Trek pointed out, that so far, you know, yes, it is bad that they're murdering, but it seems like the folks that they're murdering or hurting or whatever hurt them somehow in the past. But it's still not, I'm not excusing the behavior, but you know, it's kind of like it's kind of like the world that, as Marcelo, maybe you put it last week, it's like they're already involved in this world, and that's just kind of like the rules of the world, and they don't know any better. And Book's trying to lift them out of this into the light, like Book saying like, and also I think people are redeemable. Arthur, I disagree on the unredeemable part. I just don't think that like maybe they'll have all the privileges that a person who's never murdered may have had, but I think someone could genuinely feel remorseful and in their heart regret their choices and their decisions, and maybe work their whole lives to try to like undo the harm that they have done. So I don't think that anyone is unredeemable per se, but I do think some people, you know, it's harder to see them get redemption. It's harder to like, you know, the worse things they do, the harder it is to imagine redemption. But I like to point out, look at the character of Giorgio, Emperor Giorgio. Like, yes, like Giorgio's like a mass murdering, that's her history, but like she's changed. Like, like I know, it's kind of, but I don't know. I think to me, one of the
She's
core
a mass
tenets,
murderer.
I just think that one of the core tenets or core principles of Star Trek is that rehabilitation rather than incarceration or punishment. And so I think everyone's got a shot at rehabilitation, if you will. But I know it's really tough for me to try to like characters that are, I'm fairly justice oriented and but I got to remember that everyone can make mistakes, and sometimes circumstances play a big part, like as to how people are shaped. That's a good point.
Yeah, but also I'm really starting to feel that look, as much as I like Maul and Locke, I'm like, please, I think I'm with Art on this one. I'm like, oh God, please don't make them have a redemption story. Just make them who they are, make them go after whatever they want for whatever reason, and then kill them at the end. Please don't. Please don't. Please don't redeem one of them, because I'm like, I miss the days when we would have like quote unquote Star Trek villains, and they would do evil stuff, and then the cast wouldn't try to redeem them at the end. Like they would either die or go off somewhere.
That's rare on Star Trek television. I think that's more a Star Trek film trope, Marcelo. But I think in Star Trek television on the whole, there aren't really villains. There's a lot of antagonists.
I got one. I got a villain for you
from the show. Like, yeah, but it's like the brig. Send them.
You don't need to be redeemed if they're in the brig, right?
The brig. That's good. That's good. The brig.
But who are you gonna
put? I have one villain for you, guy, and if you can justify a way that this guy can be redeemed, I will bow down to your majesty. Gul Dukat. Is that guy redeemable?
No.
No,
but
maybe he had a chance to
season
be
1 or something.
But not only that, he had lots of chances to not redeem. Let's change the word from redeem to rehabilitate, right? Because maybe he's just on the wrong path and he needs to be set right. But Gul Dukat is woefully irredeemable, double down. So yeah, that is a great example. But you know what's great about Gul Dukat though, Marcelo? There's 7 seasons of nuance to talk about of Gul Dukat. He's just there's a lot. Yeah, speaking of which, we're going to be doing that. But yeah, he's not redeemable. I agree. I think him and Kai Wynn are just gross. They're just they're just disgusting.
But you know what? I do like Joel's idea because it harkens back to something that I've said on multiple times on different streams. If I don't like specific characters and I want them to pay for something, I'll just send them to jail for the rest of their natural lives. That's a good idea. It's a break.
And that's funny because Locke is okay with that if he can go to jail with Maul. He pretty much says that in this episode. So that was interesting. Because that's what he really wants.
He just wants to protect her. He sees that she, I think there's a little bit of Beauty and the Beast going on here as well. Like the Breen are pretty brutal as a people and stuff like that. And so he's probably, been a party to a lot of like kind of things that make him feel like he's this like monster in a way. But she really sees who he is inside. She sees the beauty of who he is. He's an outsider among the Breen. He's trying really hard to express himself, and stuff like that. But unfortunately, just like her, circumstances have kind of placed them in this kind of difficult situation. And I just love that Book is fighting so hard to like get her to make a different choice, and she kind of does. They both kind of do. I think it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. I'm very curious. Wow, good stuff. Damn, good stuff.
One thing I think maybe should have happened is Michael should have tried to connect a little more with Locke by saying why she got a second chance in Starfleet. Because I'm just saying that he doesn't know anything about that.
Yeah, that's true.
He just kind of said, well, Book and me got second chances. Well, sure, but you got a big second chance.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know about it.
Yeah, you actually got really lucky because you got co-opted by Madman to just because this Madman was in love with a different version of you, and then you just sort of went along for the ride, But perhaps that was a little bit too much of a long history to tell to someone who
Yeah, in the middle of a
technically wanted
scene.
to kill you.
What did you all think? What did you all think of the ISS Enterprise and the whole kind of addition to the Star Trek lore that we got from all of that?
Well, it was nice to see. I mean, obviously they were using the wonderful Strange New World sets, and they lit them so they looked different because it was all basically blue in there. And then they had all the monitors were all changed to be green images of stuff instead of that was blue, I think, in the regular Strange New World. It's what's on my desktop is a picture of Spock station, I think. But so they did make it look different, and of course they messed it all up, and it was dirty and explosive. And we did get to see lots of Mirror Universe rocks and fire on the bridge as it got hit. So those are the same, luckily. So.
The rocks, I love the rocks. Shout out to Junk Ball, by the way. If you guys don't know what Junk Ball Media is, go check it out. And thanks for hitting the like, audience. If you guys see this, please hit the like button. If you're watching on Twitter or sorry, X and or Facebook, please like and share there as well if you want. Also subscribe. We will never reach the YouTube milestones, but we we just want to have subscribers who like what we're doing, so that would be cool. But I really Marcel, what'd you think?
Yeah, no, it was cool seeing the Mirror Universe version of the Strange New Worlds bridge, and like Joel said, I really appreciated that they did little tiny things like change the colors. You got to see like the different rocks, and I really like the plaque on the wall that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But I think it was a really really nice uh change, and I like the way that they repurpose sets. I mean, 90s Trek did that a lot with with different sets that they would dress up to be different locations. So um, I, I thought it was great.
It means a lot to me that the episode Mirror Mirror, the events of that episode had such a profound effect on the Enterprise. That this ship that was forged to be maybe the flagship of this brutal Enterprise, born on Tartarus base, as the plaque says, which is kind of cool because Tartarus is where the Olympians are imprisoned, right? In mythology, right? Yeah, so it's cool that it was Tartarus base where the Enterprise was birthed. But anyways, it's cool to me that like somehow that adventure where Kirk and kind of influences Spock like leads to a series of events. And here's what the dedication says: the new High Chancellor presented hope and justice as if they were natural to our world. His words, "The light of hope shines through even the darkest of nights," became our rallying cry. He spoke of reform and changed many of us, but some saw this as a weakness. They killed him, and we sought help from an unlikely ally, a Kelpian slave turned rebel leader. He spoke of visitors from another world, a near perfect mirror that casts our darkness into light. With his aid, we secured the Enterprise, but he stayed behind to continue his work. We bear scars from our escape, but our hope remains. May it carry us into a shining, peaceful, and just future. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's very nice. They made that plaque. So.
Yeah.
Because they erased the logs.
That's a really, really good mission statement. Yeah,
it is indeed.
In the live audience, Jill is asking where you're reading from. It's the plaque they show a little bit of, but on Twitter, Yerk had the transcribed actual picture.
That's correct. I got to give credit to Jörg Hillebrand, who posted that. He does his Star Trek observations. You can follow him on all the socials. I don't know how he managed to post on everything. I can't do it. But yeah, Jörg is the best. And so you could check that out and what it says. But it is neat, Joel, that they did make that. Father has a question. So did the Mirror Universe events in season 3 stick then? I have to think about that. What do you guys think?
Okay, 'cause that would be so Giorgio's would be like, what is that? 20 years before Kirk's comes over.
No, it's like about 10 years, right?
10
If I'm not mistaken, or
I know we all
less. It
talked
might
about
even
this.
be
But I
like
can't remember.
it's somewhere between 8 and 10
I know
years. I
Father
think.
knows, so we'll embarrass ourselves.
Yeah. I think it
I-
all still fit. I think it all still fits. And then I thought I could have sworn that in season 3, we're talking about Carl, right? Or is that season 4? That was season 3. Yeah. So I think that I could have sworn that the events of that mirror adventure with Giorgio were not necessarily accurate to
The
what
Carl one.
they were like.
Right.
Yeah, I think that was like a side, like what Q does, right?
It was
Like
a test.
he
yeah.
creates this thing, but nothing changes or whatever is my impression, but I can't remember.
Yeah. I'm gonna
Oh,
go
here
with-
we go.
No.
Meaning season 3 is when we see Slave Kelpian become freedom fighter. They never confirm those events are real or not. Yeah. So I don't know if those events, but maybe even though they're not real, they could still be reflective of similar events that may have occurred. I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah.
Well, some of them must
I-
have because Saru rebels. So
Yeah. What about you? What were you saying, Marcel?
I choose to believe they were real. I don't go that deep into it, so I will definitely side on the side of Joel and whatever Sohel says here on the bottom. Because one thing that I haven't been over the moon about with Discovery is the way that they've handled the mirror. I've liked most of the Mirror Universe stuff, but the stuff in season 3, some of it was kind of superfluous for me. But I choose to believe that those events were real. If you're asking me, blank,
yeah, if Giorgio
Um,
leaves, is the entire empire destabilized right away? Probably not. Someone else takes charge. It's probably not quite as expansionist for a little while, but there's plenty of time for that to happen, and then Kirk and Spock to do what they did in Mir, and then Spock.
Yep.
Did they never say who the Chancellor is during that period of the Mirror Universe, right? They just
No.
it's very vague. Yeah. So we can
Yeah.
and it looks like Spock becomes Chancellor at some point after the events of Mirror.
All we know is that if you're Chancellor, your prime counterpart is on the Enterprise because we have Giorgio is not a her ship, but she's on it a lot. Lorca visits and
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing I like. I just like that the Enterprise herself is kind of like this
nexus point.
Yeah, nexus point. Like I personally like I don't mind the Enterprise being a thing we see rarely. Like I don't mind that we have a show that's not on the Enterprise, like Voyager or Discovery or whatever, but I do like that the Enterprise always has this kind of mystique or air of like, importance to it. It always has to. Like there's always got to be something. That's what endears me to all the Enterprises. Like I feel like I was like, oh, the Enterprise B, like, it's important because of what happens with like the Nexus and how they save the save Guinan's people. What are they called? Why am I blanking on her species right now? I can't believe you guys don't know. Audience, help us out. But anyways, whatever. I love that mission, and then of course the Enterprise C is like endeared to me because of what Captain Garrett did, and I'm excited that we're gonna possibly see Captain Garrett, or we will see definitely a
maybe
young
not
Garrett.
C, but
Thank you, Trev. Elorians. I couldn't believe it. Which we'll see more. We'll see another Elorian on Deep Space Nine. But yeah, I loved all that stuff. And then of course the D we followed. I love the only Enterprise that I think doesn't deserve to be an Enterprise is the Enterprise J. I think that's a trash Enterprise. But other than that, all the Enterprises are pretty awesome.
Are the
yeah, I'm
Enterprise act
partial.
characters? Are they? Is it like the TARDIS? They're steering everything
Oh,
to where
100%.
it needs to go.
Yeah, 100%. That's
Yeah,
going on.
yeah.
That's
No,
definitely
but
going on.
I like the D. That's my Enterprise because that's Picard's Enterprise. But also, I am partial to the Enterprise E. I love that damn ship. Because it's got all the purple seats. I like the dark purpleness of it. And I like
Mhm.
the layout of the bridge. I'm obsessed with that layout.
It's a nice bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to the discussion about the Mirror Universe and the ISS Enterprise, we can assume Mirror Spock uses the Tantalus field to defeat the Emperor and becomes Chancellor. Half Terran, half alien, who made the Empire more equal rights with reforms before being defeated. And we get more of that in Deep Space Nine, right? Because then
The attendant talks about it.
the attendant talks about it, right? And then Father goes on to say, and then he sends refugees fleeing either counter-revolutionary Terran forces or the Alliance, right? The Alliance was yeah. So
with
yeah,
plushies. So
Father, you're going to talk more about this on Text Trek tonight, so we can't wait to hear more about your theories. And you have a big theory, I think, about what was it last night you were talking about? But it had something to do with all this, so about Spock, I think, or something like that. So we hope to hear more about that. Jill says, I can't recall if Green Eye. Oh, I forgot. That's awesome, by the way. I forgot to highlight your name. I love that Maul calls him Green Eye. That's very cute. I can't recall if there was an anti-alien thing in Mirror Mirror. And then Art says the only thing Mirror Spock was defeated in truth, he went to the Mirror Kelvin universe. So there's a Mirror universe and then a Mirror Kelvin universe. That's a lot of universes, but I believe
that'd
it.
be hard if you were sensitive to light and have lens flare.
Ah! Feel like stepping in the torture. No, I would rather
I love
die.
that.
Get
I
me
love the
out of
idea that the
here.
Kelvin universe is just brighter. It's like slightly brighter than
It's
all the
better.
other universes for some reason.
Thank you, JJ.
Was in
Right?
this episode was the Discovery Bridge a little more lens flary than usual, or was I just looking at
Yeah.
all the colors too carefully?
No.
It seemed
Wait,
like
what
there
was
was a
that
lot of more lens flare in this one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They-
I think I've become like so. I think I've lens flare just goes in the background for me. I don't even notice it anymore. But I'll
It's
have
because
to
I
pay
was
attention.
trying to take notes on the colors of all the different things. Because like we had this Discovery, which was normal, but seemingly lens flary more than normal. And we had the green of the wormhole, and then the blue of the ISS
The wormhole was
Enterprise.
green. It was kind of, yeah. You're right. It's kind of a greenish,
Well, greenish.
bluish
I mean,
tint.
greenish blue, you could say, but more
Yeah,
green than the
yeah.
blue of the Enterprise. And then we have the Breen station, which is orange with the green highlights on the floor and the helmets.
True.
It almost looks brass, but it's really it had orange lights everywhere, so I don't think it was.
Let's talk about.
That's why I was paying attention. I was trying to think of all the color differences.
If there's nothing more to talk about on the Mirror stuff, let's talk about Rayner and the crew on Disco. How'd you feel about that story playing out and everything that was going on there? Why'd you go first, Marcelo?
He's getting better. He's getting better. They're getting used to him. They're starting to respect him a little bit more, and I really like their dynamic and how he's settling in. And I really like, just real quickly, because I don't think I spoke on this earlier. I really like Rayner doing his best impersonation of William Riker, saying to Michael he's not going to allow her to go into the wormhole, but Michael does what she wants anyway. But to get
But he
get
has
back
to
on
say
point,
it.
right? He has to say it because it's his job. I really like how he's settling in and how they're starting to respect him and they're not giving him any lip back, basically. So I really like it. Him and the crew.
Yeah, I think he did a really good job, and he did everything he needed to do. And I think everyone was fine with what he was doing. There wasn't literally a lot of grumbling, I think, even on the part of Stamets and Adira. They were upset because of how hard it was, especially with Adira's one plan was like, well, there's a 49% chance it'll, close the wormhole and they'll be sealed in there forever. And that wasn't good, but it had nothing to do with him. It was just the situation.
Yeah. No, but I do think that at the end of this season, I do think that he's going to get his command back, and I do think that he's going to get to sit in that chair again, unless he pulls a Shaw, which I hope he does not.
I don't think they'll kill him.
He's a really nice character. He's a really good character to me.
This is my lament about this being the last season of Star Trek Discovery is that they're introducing these really cool characters and that we're only going to get them for 5 more episodes and not another couple of seasons. But I agree with Art 100%. Raynor needs a couple more seasons to continue to develop, not just 5 more episodes.
But also, I think we're still going to get a wedding. I'm holding hard and fast.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we are going to see Saru again. I hope so anyways.
So we need one episode where they plan the wedding.
Yep.
We'll wrap this up on episode 8, the clue stuff, and then we have an episode of wedding planning, and then an episode of the wedding, and then the stuff they shot to wrap it up at the very end of the
and that's it. And that's it. Yeah.
I like that they haven't forgotten that Raynor's an alien, a Kelleran. It's interesting. I don't remember the Kelleran. They were on what, Voyager or Deep Space Nine?
Deep Space Nine.
He was on Deep Space Nine, so I don't really remember much about that character. Yeah, or that one character, I guess.
Well, no, there's one episode. There was like 3 of them, or most.
Oh, gotcha. I see.
But you don't learn that much, other than they want to destroy those weapons, and they're going to kill all the people from Deep Space Nine who helped.
Yeah. It's interesting. I like. There's some quirks that I can't tell if it's a Kelleran trait or a Raynor trait, but it doesn't really matter. I guess it's just still cool, like how he can't stand like extra anything. Like he wants things like just to the point. Like he doesn't want like extra. He's like, okay, I get it. More words, go ahead. Like he's like really like that. And he'd be an interesting person to keep me in line because I definitely like need to use less words.
Less words, please.
Summary, Sohail, 20 words.
Yeah. The other day when I did the summary for an episode we talked about already, I did it like in 5 minutes or less than 5 minutes. You're like, wow, that's really short. And they go, I'm like, yeah, that's how I roll.
Cake has been on a little bit of hiatus, so remind me again at what point in the writing did they find out Disco was not renewed? I believe it was at the end. Green Eye answered too. Yeah, I think it was it was all done, and then but they got a little budget to do some reshoots and wrap-ups, which I hope they somehow figure out a way to extend the same. I don't know what they can do, like maybe an extra episode or 2 of Lower Decks, just to kind of give us some kind of thing.
I don't think they can add it this season, but
I'm telling you,
they can do something more later.
I'm telling you,
even if it's not season 6.
Something more later.
Yeah,
thank you, Joel.
They could all go on Strange New Worlds and then just permanently be there, the 4.
But Disco did get a chance to kind of to do an ending, so that's exciting. And if you guys follow Mick Jost on Twitter, he is with Cinema Blend and he does a lot of cool interviews, and he recently interviewed David Ajala, and David Ajala seems to be very chuffed about what they managed to do with those extra scenes that they shot. So I'm already getting goosebumps. Yeah, we're getting goosebumps thinking about it. So hopefully we're not all crying and need therapy after Discovery.
No, but guys, I'm telling you, they're gonna give Mike McMahon a proper way to say goodbye to his beloved Lower Decks crew, and I would love it if it'd be a movie directed and written by him. Like I would lose my mind if they if the higher ups at Paramount would let him do that.
Think how much he could fit in a 90-minute movie. It's how much is it? 25 minutes.
He'll go nuts.
But yeah, so I guess that kind of we're at about an hour, and we like to keep these things at an hour, and I have to get ready for my next stream with Toddy. So I guess to wrap it up on this episode, I just think, again, this is a pretty cool cool story. I think bringing in the ISS Enterprise and like, this whole season, Discovery's kind of been somehow touching on threads and stories from Treks of the past, and like, doing little notes or wrap ups on things, or just like little, it's just like not over the top or not too much. I think it's just the Goldilocks version of like getting all these like revisiting all these things, like everything from revisiting Discovery's own history. This whole season so far in a way seems like a celebration of Star Trek to me, and I don't know if that
It
was
is.
intentional or not, but that's what it feels like, and I'm really enjoying the heck out of it. And so yeah, I'd give this episode a 10 out of 10. Would do again. And I've already watched it a bunch of times. It's got it. Yeah, I'm saving that 11 for the finale, or maybe more. It might be a higher. I'm holding out for the finale, but yeah, I'm excited to continue talking about this season and see where it leads us. And next week, I guess we'll hopefully get another piece of the puzzle and see what's yeah, exactly. See what's going on in there. What about you, Joel? Final thoughts and ratings, and tell folks anything you'd like to promote or where they can find you other than on our cool streams.
I'm just on various streams all the time now, apparently.
You're like a debutante of streaming. You've come out into society now. It's streaming.
I've done one of all the shows I watch religiously, right? So I was on Starfleet Sohail After Dark. I was on Tex Trek last night. I was on the Salon last night, and now regular Starfleet Sohail. So look at that.
Look at that. Dreams come true.
This episode, I would give. I think I would give it an 8. I really liked it, but then I think like the weird. All of a sudden, there's a force field in sickbay. Was kind of just very random and not really built up to it all. And I liked it, but I think just. There's a lot of great reveals in the story and backstory from All Locked, but then the little action bits with that are just kind of like, in the Enterprise.
All right.
I think I like last week's more. But
you don't have to give like a rating necessarily. You can give a silly one, or you can opt out.
I did. I said 8.
Oh, I didn't hear you. I was distracted.
I didn't eat it. No. It was the number 8.
The number 8. Excellent. That's a good rating. What about you, Marcelo?
I thought this episode was good. I didn't like that in this episode all my theories got shot to crap. So that really disappointed me. But I'm really, really excited to see where Maul and Locke are gonna go. And this episode was really good. There's only a couple things that I would change about it, which I kind of already addressed in our comments earlier in the stream. But with that, I think I'm with Joel. I'll give it an 8 on this one.
All right. Well, Marcelo, you guys, there's a Linktree link, which I neglected to put in the description. I apologize, Marcelo, but if you guys follow Creek Fanatic 88 on X, you can check out all the things that Marcelo's doing. And also, Marcelo, if I may, I already wished it to you privately, but happy birthday. It's so cool that you completed another journey around our sun. Congratulations.
You're going to like this. Thank you very much, guys. One of the gifts that I got from one of my friends, I got season 3 of Picard, and I'm
great,
rewatching it today. So yeah.
Oh, very nice. Very cool. We'll enjoy that. We'll have to do another Picard. I love Picard, but
really, I had no idea.
I had no idea.
I had no idea.
So once again, folks, check us out at 5 p.m. Eastern. We're going to talk about Lower Decks. Season 4, episode 5, I think it is now that we're on, episode 4 or 5, which is what is it?
Parth
Ferengi Heart Place. Like, such a good title. But anyways, and then tonight on Tex Trek, check that out at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, and don't forget. Well, and then just stay tuned, because who knows, there might be an After Dark program after all if Marcelo can muster up a group of folks to join the crew. So we'll see about that. But live long and prosper, and we will see you next time.